Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. Going to be talking about Wisp and the Archon mods. And after testing all of the frames and the conditionals and like trying to proc buffs and everything, I gotta say, this is the easiest frame to proc the buffs on everything that she actually has access to elemental wise. Wisp is going to be so strong with the Archon mods. Let's go over it. So she has access to these. The two that she doesn't have access to involve Toxin and Cold. If you wanted to gain access to them, you got to use a Helminth. Currently, I have her to Helminth off, just to run Silence. We were running, I forget what it was, but I Helminth this on for a purpose. These are so easy to proc on her. It's hilarious compared to everything else where it's like, oh, combat discipline, you know, blah, 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 you have to trigger your heal. No, she just gets it for free. Okay, let's go over it. Archon Vitality, 440 health. Not the most desirable stat, because your reservoirs give you health, but the heat damage being applied twice. Here's the thing. The way this mod actually works, I've been saying it regularly that, and it's true, but it comes with an added context. Status effects from abilities that deal heat damage will be applied twice. Her Soulgate deals heat and radiation, right? When you're using your Soulgate, it's applying 2 stacks of heat and 2 stacks of radiation in terms of damage. So it's not going to proc radiation twice as fast, but it's going to proc the damage again. So even Soulgate does damage now. It's not a game-breaking amount, but considering there's the vulnerability increase, and you can hold down the left button to increase the intensity of it, this actually ends up doing a non-insubstantial amount of damage. Like, this will definitely get you through the star chart, and even parts of the steel path. This wouldn't scale infinitely or anything like that. I mean, technically you could roast something long enough, right? Or maybe like a heat inherit, to get the trigger faster, like the stacks faster, but it's probably faster to just use a melee, right? But anyway, she can use it. So you would use Soulgate to trigger it. Archon Intensify. If this isn't the first video of these, you've watched one of the videos that I've made about like the frame and showing what Archon mods it can trigger, I've been having to tell you to use like Condition Overload with like a heal so you have like available health. I'm not going to recommend you to do that on this. Reason being is the motes count as an ability. Everything else where it's like, say, Trinity. I just did a Trinity video where only the blessing applied, but the Well of Life didn't. That's not the case with Wisp. If you have a mote on and you take health damage, it counts. If your pet takes health damage, it counts. If an ally has a mote on them, which they probably should if they're paying attention, and you're not dropping the motes out in like the middle of the Pacific Ocean, they will have a mote on them. That counts also. So this buff is almost always going to be up. As long as so if anybody on your team is running Condition Overload and has a mote on them, you will get this buff for free. You don't have to do anything for it. You just get rid of Transient Fortitude and enjoy the extra duration. So this is going to be a direct replacement unless you really, 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 really want that on-demand 55 and you don't have the ability to wait for 60. Because as soon as somebody takes health damage, even if they get one shot, you'll get a tick and it'll count for you. And it snapshots on the motes. Speaking of things that are super easy to trigger, Archon Stretch. Okay. Abilities that deal electricity damage restore 2 energy per second over 5 seconds. The reservoir is permanent. All you have to do is just walk over the reservoir, pick up an electric mote, and you gain 2 energy per second because it's not channeled. So these three, Stretch, if you're using range at all, there's no reason why you shouldn't be using this. If you're using Strength, I don't know why you wouldn't. You would just slot this and place a Transient Fortitude. Archon Vitality is probably the most conditional thing on here, because you might not want the health and you'd rather run a full power strength Wisp. But even then, it applies in a point-and-click fashion. So, out of all of the frames that can use these, Wisp has the easiest time with access to these. If you are a Wisp main, maybe you don't want the Vitality, but Intensify and Stretch should be immediate pickups. Okay? Like, you're just gonna put this on your frame. And it's what you're... Just eat the Forma cost and enjoy the additional power strength and the additional energy regen. And that being said, one of the things that's like really popular is to run like conditional power. So you would have like growing power here. Oh, I don't have a Forma slot in it. Hold on. This, and what's the other one? Oh man, I'm drawing a blank. What is it? Energy conversion. Like this. So 50 strength from energy conversion, 75 from growing power, or 75 with growing power, and an additional 30 from Archon intensity brings you to 105. You can easily put Molt on here because she's invisible, so you don't necessarily need to run a Aegis, though I do enjoy using that. I'm probably going to take it off for another 60 ability strength. So that brings us to 165. And then you have, what's that school? I think I'm using it right now. What is it? 20 strength? Sorry, I'm really tired. Boost to Suresh, hold on. Okay, so 165 plus an additional 20. So you can run these mods and get 100 in what? Okay, hold on, I lost count. 50. Let me get a calculator. Here we go. So 50 plus 25 plus 30 equals 50, 25, 30, and 20 plus 20 from the focus school plus 60. So in terms of conditionals, because Wisp is a support frame generally for the meta build for her, you can get with conditionals 185 ability strength now. And you can still run a power strength build with like blind rage. Wisp is going to be insane when this comes. Like, it's been a meme thing because this stuff applies, and I can only imagine how she's going to proc this stuff with a Fisher buff. Because I haven't been able to test reliably if this scales your Fisher buff. But considering these can, I don't see why not. Or growing power does. Energy conversion doesn't. But considering you can manipulate Fisher buffs with this, I fully expect there to be, once it gets figured out, a very, very easy way for Wisp to regularly hit 1,000 power strength. Because think about it, if you're running 300, right? Or what's, hold on, I got the build for it. Okay, it's something like that. No, not this Wisp. Okay. So 337 times 2 plus, let's say 165. And I've got junk on here. Okay. I've got junk on here still. This is a camper friendly build. So like if I didn't care about range at all. Actually, I could slot stretch straight on here. So I could swap that out. But with all of that, with no other buffs and a Nidus, you would be at a 800 power strength. And then you would have the Nidus bonus to consider after that. You could easily hit 1,000 power strength on Wisp. Not that you couldn't before, but it would be so easy to do now. Because of the conditionals and because of where they proc at. And how easy they are to proc. I think Wisp is just going to be incredibly strong. So it's two things, but energy regen over time is enough to keep your abilities up because you're not spamming the other ones. Reservoir goes down one time, and you just get an additional 2 energy per second. Breach Surge, you use it a bit, but it's 50 energy. Soulgate, it isn't something you're going to be spamming. Now, the only thing I could possibly say with this is that when you're using Soulgate, you're not going to get the energy per second because it's channeled, right? But generally, this is the helmet ability. Generally, it's the helmet ability, right? So it is what it is. This is going to be an incredibly comfortable build to run on her. And the only one that I would say is an option, Intensify and Stretch, I would say are mandatory. If you need these stats, this replaces Transient Fortitude, 100 pennies on the dollar. Archon Stretch, if you want range at all, you're just going to slot this on. There's no question about it. It's completely worth the forma to go from regular Stretch to this one with Wisp. It's so easy to proc on this frame. And Archon Vitality, if you want it for the heat proc, you can, but chances are you're just going to be running more power strength in the slot, so why not? And you have a D polarity, at least you should on Wisp, where it's like Adaptation or Rolling Guard or something. You should have something in the slot that's a D. So, I don't know. This is food for thought. But however, if they modify these at all, Wisp is still going to be strong. So, congratulations, Wisp, on your massive buff. Somehow, one of the most popular frames in Warframe came out miles ahead of everything else. And for the ease of the procking on these is so easy. So, enjoy your buff. I'm jealous because I play Nezha a lot. I play other frames too, but like Equinox is like I play Equinox a bit. Equinox's 4 doesn't count as a heal as far as Archon Intensify is considered. But Wisp gets motes that anything that has the mote on it that takes health damage and gets healed, Wisp gets a buff. Whatever, man. I'm a little salty about it. But there's a bunch of frames that I play with healing abilities on them, and they don't count because it's like an aura or something, right? Like even Trinity, Well of Life doesn't count, but Wisp mote on your pet, Wisp mote on an ally, because restoring health with abilities counts as anything. So Wisp can self-trigger this pretty easily, because anything that takes health damage or gets healed, her or her pet, she can self-proc this somewhat easily, especially if you're running adaptation. Maybe Archon Vitality you don't want to do if you're doing like solo play, because it requires you to use Soulgate. But if you're using Vitality anyway, you might as well drop this in. There's no reason not to. Especially for Soulgate to actually do damage, right? But here it is. I'm a little jealous. Congratulations to all the Wisp mains. Take it easy, y'all. Have a blessed day.